What is debt parking? Well, it's a tactic used by some debt collection agencies, often to coerce payment. They put a notice of a debt, an invalid or a fake debt, on a person's credit report, and it's 100% illegal. It violates things like the FTC Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It is sometimes called passive debt collection because the consumer doesn't even know it's there. Collectors don't contact the consumer first. They go right to the credit bureau and they put a fake debt on the report. People only learn of this debt if they're trying to buy a car, get a loan, and they're told that they have this debt on their report. People frequently will pay that debt just to clear their name, even though it's not a valid debt. So like we said, completely illegal, and the Federal Trade Commission has actually started cracking down on this practice. The Bureau of Consumer Protection recently took action against a collection company and its owners who had recently collected over $24 million. They had actually collected closer to $98 million since 2015. The case is FTC versus Midwest Recovery Systems and its officers. It was the first legal challenge to this debt parking practice under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. The debts included things like payday loan debts, significant quantities of medical debt, and most of the debts were incorrect. Some people had written complaint letters to the Midwest Recovery saying that they had paid the debt and it kept popping back up on their credit report. Some people said that the debt was so wrong that it would show an amount owed of $1,500 on a medical bill, when really all that was owed was a very small copay of like $80. So the information was really wrong and it kept popping up on the report. The company, Midwest Recovery's own investigation of its own practices, found that about 97% of its debts were incorrect or not valid on credit reports. Midwest Recovery Systems settled this suit with the FTC. The owners and the company neither admit nor deny the allegations, but the settlement prohibits the company from debt parking or from pursuing consumers for debt without a reasonable basis, which is the common standard. The FTC statement to collectors is that consumer credit reports are what they call a no parking zone. No debt parking is allowed on consumer credit reports. This company we've been talking about in this lawsuit, the Midwest Recovery Company, must contact credit reporting bureaus and delete all debts that they've reported. The financial judgment in this case was about $24 million. Midwest said it's not sure if it's going to be able to pay that amount. One member of the FTC actually voted against the settlement agreement, not because he liked the practice of debt parking, because he didn't think the settlement agreement went far enough to protect consumers from this ridiculous practice. He said, there would be a systemic fix that would involve credit reporting bureaus to help identify the problematic collector, the bad firms out there, and stop these debts before they even start. But until that even happens, there are some steps that you can do. You can check your credit report frequently, especially before you apply for a job or for a car loan or for any other kind of credit. If it appears incorrect, if something on your credit report appears incorrect, contact the lender or the collection agency listed on the report. Contact the credit bureau and let them know that there is a mistake. Dispute that debt. You can do that in writing, and there are actually sample letters on the Federal Trade Commission's website that you can download and use as your template when you're disputing a debt. Victims may also ultimately have a remedy in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Civil Penalty Unit if it gets bad enough, but simply contacting the Collection Bureau first and disputing the debt is a good first step. Now, like we said, check your credit report frequently. Now, typically, you can get one free credit report a year from each of the three credit reporting bureaus. During coronavirus, you can get free weekly credit reports. We have a separate video on how to request your free weekly credit report from each of the bureaus. That weekly free credit report is through April 2021. Now, like we said, medical debt was a big part of this Midwest Recovery conversation. Medical debts overall make up about 50% of the debts reported by collection agencies. A lot of people just cite confusion in that process. They're not sure how their insurance works. They're not sure what they owe. They're not sure what insurance is going to pay. They're not sure about the cost sharing. If you have questions about your medical debt, where to go for more information, and how to challenge some of these debts that appear on your credit report, you can use that FTC website as a resource. We also link in the description below to our own website that gives sample letters and your rights and responsibilities if you do encounter medical debt. Now, what's next? Well, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is expected to publish a second round of debt collection rules, trying to tighten the strings a little bit on some of these collection agencies. Likely, you can imagine, these rules will address debt parking, among other issues. We will keep an eye out for those for when they are published. Now, in the description below, like we said, some resources on the Federal Trade Commission's website, also the links on how to request your free weekly credit reports and some of those sample letters like we have on our own website.